It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.
Right, welcome back to part two of episode 56, the goings. So this more sad side of it, especially South Africa. This was quite a sad week with the announcement of Steven Kitshoff, having to retire. Harry, welcome back. Your thoughts on a stalwart, double World Cup winner, almost a once in a lifetime, quiet guy, but a guy that played an immense role in the success of the Springboks.
How do you talk about Kitsy, eh? Kitsoff he's every man in the sense that he was sized like a normal person. He's not Eben. He's not Peter Steph Toy with that sort of remarkable size plus athleticism. He's not Cheslin Colby who could step you in a phone booth. Kitsoff is a guy you couldn't know in your own neighborhood, in your own school, in your own family. Tremendously strong, but not showy. Not a guy who's got all the highlights. He has 2 tries as a Bok, and they're both against Italy. So I joked when I sent a message to his family that he should only play against Italy. Imagine what he would have been then. Just a guy who was always learning. History-wise, I think it's interesting to trace, his rise. He was born in Somerset West, went to primary school on the beach, Strand, Hendrik Low Law School. That was an 1880 school, and it was one of the schools that was on the circuit for our primary schools to play. And they had this funny slogan or motto, which is, "We're the best school south of the North Pole," like a dad joke. It's a really old-fashioned kind of setup, and so he wasn't going to go too far if he stayed there. So he actually ended up going to Paul Roos and playing for the first team there. And young, he showed when he was 15, 16, like Western Province noticed him young, and because he was strong for his age, it's difficult to be a prop and be strong enough in your core and to learn. But I looked at those core values of his school: reliability, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and good citizenship. And I kind of thought, well, maybe little Stevie was listening, because that's actually those traits: patrolbaarheid, reliability, trustworthy. A guy. I'm joking now. I'm not saying anything bad about anyone else, but maybe he's the Bok to marry. He's probably the best Bok husband. And part of that's because he's happy. I always thought he was the happiest Bok. People show happiness different ways. Some people are more up and down. I'm not begrudging that at all. But he just seemed like he was always cheerful. So once he gets into the youth picture for Western Province, he played Currie Cup. I think he was 17. Can you imagine? I mean, you can imagine being 17 and playing wing, fullback, when you have space. You can dance around like Sasha, but you're in the grinder. You're up against, these people with beards, and you're 17. He was part of that incredibly famous baby Bok team, under 20s. I got to see that match when they won 22-16 against the New Zealand juniors in Newlands. 33,000 people in the crowd. Ed Newlands, one of my favorite sort of ending memories of Newlands. Pollard was there, Peter Steph, Dylan Lade, Sutterfontaine, your guy coming. 2 Scottish props, Alan Dell and Ollie Kebble, who ended up playing for Scotland. Raymond Rule, who was a Bok but went on to play for La Rochelle. Marvin Orry, Paul Willemse, the French lock. I mean, what a team. There's just very difficult to put that together when you're 18, 19 years old. He became the starter at number 1 in 2012 at both Western Province and Stormers, and then he was capped in 2016 against Ireland. So he was the right size. He's been, famously more the substitute than the starter, but that's actually a metaphor for this team as well. The golden age, we might be looking at the golden age of the Boks, the best Bok team that ever existed. We might be looking at that. I don't like making those arguments until the dust has settled and the sun has set. But if that's true, this sort of 6 foot, 120 kg guy who was remarkably resilient, but then when he did get injured, that's when you saw his value. Like when he was missing, you thought, oh no, that would be a Kitshoff moment. And part of that's because being a prop, especially in the loose head, where your job is to attack and split the tight head from his hooker. So the loose head, number 1 of all people, have to be connected to their hooker. They have to be best friends with their hooker, because it's such a coordinated drive to attack when to attack, not on your 5, but on their 5 meters. When it's sort of midfield, you have to decide when I go, when I don't go, what picture I can present. Kitshoff was remarkable. So Beast did it with surges of like mad passion. Like when Beast got it going, it didn't really matter about form and technique. He would just stand the tight head up, splinter them, squash them, be part of their career story forever. England Lions guys, you remember them. You remember those guys mostly, like Vickery, because of that moment. But he wasn't always the guy who would, inside the scrum, be able to tell the younger guy what to do. Ox comes through, highly analytical, stats guy, degree from university in statistics and geography. So Ox sort of bridges the gap here. And almost immediately, he goes to starter and Kits is still the backup. Everyone tells me that Kitshoff was the guy that you wanted to come to talk to as a prop immediately post-match. And he would say, hey, what I saw was this, what I felt was this, feet were too quick, gotta hang back. And so in the middle of the game, he could correct. Nick Faldo is famous for saying, the best golfers, some of us can play pretty good golf. We can hit the same shots as the pros if we're big and strong. But we're not able to fix our game in the middle of a round. So our scores balloon to 85 when they could have been 72. So Kitshoff was one of those guys who kept learning throughout his career. He added a lot when he went to Bordeaux. I think he was there for 2 seasons. He had a kind of a tough one in Ulster, but I think he was already having neck issues. But he always added skills. He led the pods in attack. He was a carrying prop, and also he was a skipper. He was the Irk champion skipper. And I started thinking about that. A lot. I don't believe that you can only be a great player if you win cups and trophies. But I do believe there are threads in a guy like Bakkies Botha's career where you say, no matter where you put him, his teams won. You have to give that some kind of credit. Kitshoff, a Lions series winner. Kitshoff, 2 World Cup winners, played in every single match in the World Cup runs. Kitshoff, under 20 Worlds winner and one of the best forwards in the tournament. Kitshoff, skipper of the Irk winning Stormers and a Currie Cup winner as well. So I think his credentials speak for themselves, and that's a big going. It's a very big going to lose a guy like Kitshoff. My personal story about him is that I was in an airport one time in Australia, and it was after a really cruel, tough loss. The team was kind of in a bad mood. It was in Adelaide, and they were going to the next venue to play, to Sydney. And I ran into the bomb squad, and they were all together. The bomb squad was playing cards. So Malcolm Marx is dealing because everyone trusts him. Faf is flitting around, trying to get selfies with people. And Vincent Koch is the deadly deadpan comedian of the group, just delivering really funny, somewhat obscene lines. And Kitshoff, you could tell, was the glue. He was the guy who would make sure everyone had something to eat, something to drink, the right chairs. When people went by, he would be the one nodding. I feel like he'd be a coach. I feel like Kitshoff can be a coach because, number one, he didn't do it with superlative athletic skill, even though he was very, very strong in the weight room. He is likable and knows how to speak really clearly. And I think he could translate the game, whether it's in scrums or elsewhere, to a wide variety of people.
What's interesting to me, you mentioned losing Kitshoff. Now we're losing him to retirement, but he mentioned that he was 2 millimeters away from losing him permanently. Yeah. And I remember the day I was living in Cape Town, can you believe it? I was the only bull supporter in the entire, suppose, suburb. I could always hear, I was the only one shouting when the Bulls scored when the Western Province in those days scored, everybody was jumping up and down. And I remember the day Jan Locke died here at Loftus, also a prop. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And we get sort of immune to the fact that this is still a very dangerous game and that things can go wrong very badly. And the sad thing for me about Steven Kitshoff is the fact that it happened in a nothing game against Griquas in Kimberley, of all places. Just sort of a warm-up game. He was sort of seen to be able to have been brought back from Ulster and brought back, not brought back, big money was spent on him to bolster the hopes of the Stormers, and it went awry. And Andre also mentioned that it's sad that a player of this caliber has to leave not on his own terms, don't you think?
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I wrote an ode to Kitshoff, if you want one.
Yes, I want one, please. I was waiting for the ode. Yeah.
Okay. Were you the happiest buck? You even cleaned rocks, that dirtiest deed, with good cheer. Joyful in the scrum, a wink to the ref, smiling as you made tight head squeal. Cheeky carries across the grim gain line, catching it all with sticky plummy hands. And your spicy socials, happy to show us what you're doing. Living your good, better, best life. On the links, in the bar, across the sea, never a thug. Often carrying a beer mug. Right-sized, just right. Not too big, not too little. You found your Goldilocks, you ginger bear. The golden era of South African rugby was built on good guys like you. The scrum is an intricate machine of force, shearing, splitting, grunting blender, 1 or 2 millimeters from doom. And you're alive, walking, grinning your grin. The freckled, wholesome bulwark of a decade of wins and losses, but wins. Yes, you cheerful champion, you won.
Yeah, goosebumps for now. Don't know where you get this from.
That gives me tears.
I can see that. No, I love it.
Yeah.
I felt it as well. The bomb squad. You mentioned that he was an integral part of the bomb squad, and even when Ox came through, he still stayed sort of part of the bomb squad. What effect do you think, just in the short term, even, is going to have on our bomb squad, the effectiveness of bomb squad? Do we have someone to step in there as Gerard Steenekamp, the natural successor? What do you see the way forward?
I mean, that's some of the part that's lean. You have Mchunu, you have Vessel, it's kind of a swing prop. You have Tank, actually plays as a swing prop. For most of his career, Thomas was a loose head. People say it's not different. And South Africa has more swing props than anyone else. But the truth is, it's like, I've heard it described like this by Frans Malherbe. It's like playing in color or black and white. I heard another guy tell me, I think it was Ox, saying it's like playing left-handed when you're right-handed. It's, you can kind of do it, but it's really awkward. It really helps not to have much of a neck if you're going to be the loose head. You can be longer as a tight head nowadays because of the bind rules and the shear foot and the break foot. But I would say Ox, obviously at his age group, younger than 30 is definitely the incumbent. Gerard Steenekamp did play really well. So I think that's what they're going to go for. It's not too late for there to be one other person that either steps up from nowhere, or a guy like Wessels or Mchunu shows something we haven't seen. Because we've seen props do that. Props will get to a certain level and then they rise. I thought Ox did that. Ox was good. And then I think he found something extra. He's very cerebral. He studies the idea of, he plays the cake thing. That's his shtick. In reality, he's a student. I talked to him for 45 minutes about scrums, one of the best conversations I had in my life about scrums. And he knows if you tell him a third string prop from Georgia, he knows the guy's name. He knows what his tendencies are. So that's set. It's just a matter of keeping him healthy and not overplaying him with the Sharks. But yeah, of all the positions, I think maybe loose head prop and lock are the ones that I do wonder about the most, just because at those positions you do get injured so frequently.
You're basically referring to a chart there that John Cardinelli drew up before we move on to the Irish players saying goodbye. A depth chart of the Springboks in terms of
it's so good.
age,
Yeah,
filtered by age. So before we move on to Ireland, I want to just finish this conversation about going forward, the Springboks, planning, the thinking behind Rassi's alignment camp, the players invited there. Just talk to us about that.
Yeah, John Cardinelli is always good on socials. He develops really good, unique, non-derivative information. So I like that. He doesn't just regurgitate or repost other people's stuff. And also I like the way he depicts it with colors. So what he's done is he's taken, and you can quibble with him on the order of the depth chart, but that's not the issue. You can see all the names there. You can switch one here and there. You might say, no, it's not Jaden Hendricks. It's more like Williams or Reinach. But all the players are there and they're color-coded. by age, and then he's noted anyone that's uncapped, like Ludwig, your lock from the Bulls. And so it's interesting to look at it and just let your eyes wander and see the colors and how they shape in the first string and the second string. And you can tell that the age profile is a little bit tough because, well, first of all, because we don't know. 1 millimeter takes Kitshoff out. If it's 3 millimeters the other way around, he's still playing. And then you've got, again, you've got the best enviable depth of props in the world. If you have Ox, Kitshoff, Steenekamp, Malherbe, Koch, Low, Dutoy. I mean, like, that's it. You're good. So it's interesting how one thing can mess you up. I think coming up in the Derby, you have some people who are really making an audition. So if you go down the list of tight heads, for example, you see Fouché, who's, got a really nice audition. The Bulls have had a very strong scrum. They've shoved Leinster off the ball. They've beaten every team on scrums. I cannot think of one team the Bulls got beaten by in the scrum in 2 years. So, that's a really interesting one with Frans Malherbe coming off the bench now. And I think John Cardinelli does a good job of going deep into the loose forward debate. And he stacks Elrich Low as the Peter Steff like for like, BJ Dixon right behind. Obviously, Elrich has a long road, brave boy, working hard. Operation went well, but now it's just all about the rehab and no infection, eat well, sleep well, and basically treat it as a job. But you go behind that and you have lots of options. So I think the most interesting ones really are, as always in every team, is 10, because everyone likes to have that debate. And so there you wonder about Sasha, Jordan, Mani coming behind Andre, or is Andre going to increasingly by 2027 be the guy who comes on to make the kick? That was precursored in this year and 2 years now. But no, I would extol this and tell everyone to take a look at it, because it's very interesting to see what might have to happen in the team selections against Italy coming up this year.
Yesterday, the SRP announced the stadiums at last. So our friend Tilman van Delft in Scotland could book his flights now. He was jumping up and down. When are they telling us? I don't know. The moment I got it, he was the first one I sent the WhatsApp to. So what did you think of those venues? As a matter of interest, the test venue in PE, the Cubera.
Yeah,
that's a nice one. Are you gonna come over? Going to watch some of them?
PE has the highest win percentage of any Bok venue. I mean, theoretically, if you're just putting it where we win, you'd say play everything at PE, and you wouldn't play very much in Cape Town. But that's the old days. I think Cape Town has restored itself as a new fortress. I think the vibe of the Wallabies playing there is really interesting in August. I think Wallabies in Cape Town, that's a vibe. That could be a really fun game. No, I really do believe in spreading it around. Nelspruit, PE, getting the full weight of the nation behind it. I don't agree with what Ireland does, for example, by always playing in the Aviva in Dublin, even if it might give them a better chance. I agree more with New Zealand and South Africa, where you play in offbeat places, 20,000, 30,000 seat stadiums sometimes, not always the 50, 60, 80. It's a reward, and I just think that whole town turns into Boktown, Bokville for that day. So, no, I like it. I'm worried about the results of this year that much, except for the big four tests. The two against the All Blacks, the one against France, and one against Ireland. I want them to test Quan Horn. I want to see what Edville van der Merwe looks like in a test match. I want to see Hartzenberg. I want to see straight up fight between BJ Dixon and Marco van Stade and Ruan Venter. I want these guys to get out there and show what they can do within a framework. Never drop, that 19 uncapped players into a game in Bloemfontein. I don't like that. But if you can put 4 or 5 guys in with a structure, it can really help you see what they're all about. And, we have a million hookers to sift through, and we do have to get midfield contingencies. We have been unbelievably lucky to have Damien and Jesse and Lucanio for so long. Lucanio had some really bad injuries, but, it'd be nice to see more of Hooker. I know you're not that big a fan of Henko van Veek, but Julius is good. David
No,
Creel.
no Genke van Wyk. I just think he's a bit injury prone. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then my guy, Johnny Roche, Bishop's boy. I see that he's named for this derby as player 23, and I like that idea. I see what they're doing there. He's a playmaker. Yeah, and I think 2025 is a different kind of test year. I think we have to do well in the big tests. We don't want to go to Ireland and lose. That needs to be all, end all. Eden Park is there for the taking. It would be wonderful to be in the stat book as the team that went 5 in a row against the All Blacks and ended the Eden Park. That's all you got to do. You got to win that match. On the ones I'll definitely be at the one in Dublin. I'm definitely going to one in Auckland. I'm definitely be in Cape Town for the Wallabies. Beyond that, I'm like Tillman. I'm doing scrambling.
Okay, let's just do a quick farewell to those, quite magnificent Irish players saying goodbye, including Conor Murray. Somebody said on Twitter, he's probably one of the best top 5 Irish rugby players of all time.
Yeah, these guys are real princes. And one thing about rugby is so different is we truly do love our rivals, and we come to respect them in a wonderful way. Like you can imagine when old players are getting together when they're 45, 50, they want to see those guys. It's going to be magic to see each other. Conor Murray is a guy that I think he invented and reinvented himself 5, 6 times. But when all his tools were assembled, he was one of the best box kicking, high kicking, clearance, exit kicking nines ever. He didn't have pace, like he said famously. When someone said, "Have you lost a yard of pace?" and he said, "I never had one to begin with, so it doesn't matter." He was a prince of the idea that the ball beats the man. So he was always good at delay, long, spiral. He would give you the ball any way you wanted, but it was easy to catch. You don't play like Ireland does with a jet rocket throwing 9. You have someone who throws you a pass you can catch in the rain. Peter O'Mahony, what a character. Our game is better for the guys like Peter. Pete is just a big, gruff old bear. Everyone loves him in where he's from, in Cork City. Swear by the guy, he'd give you the coat off his back, that kind of guy. But on the field, up for it, proper hard man. And then Cian Healy, I don't know how old he is, but when he ran on in Dublin, I was there for the All Blacks game, it looked like he could just barely motor. Like his locomotive was coming to an end. So he was a single tool player, just a scrum guy. But yeah, good on them. And I think it's wonderful to be able to see these players in their prime.
All right, Harry. I have to let you go. Real life is calling. We have to do something outside of rugby as well. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
It's the Lekker Rugby Pod, only on Megaphone Rugby.